Love 500, please subscribe.
I love 500, please subscribe.
Love 500, please subscribe and like and share.
500, please subscribe. I love 500.
I love 500, subscribe.
Love 500, please subscribe.
500, please subscribe.
I love 500, please subscribe.
I love 500, please subscribe.
Okay, what is up guys? Fahan here with my friend Hadi from Auto Exchange once again. And then today he has a new deal for me. I'm going to help him review the Honda CB150R. ExMotion, yes. Response has been so good that whereby I think Hadi has another promotion for you guys. Monthly rental.
Yeah.
So I need to mention the promo code again or not?
Yeah, okay, why not?
Okay,
Just said I love Fahan monthly.
I love Fahan monthly. So that's the promo code for the monthly. And I need to mention it at the office right here on this table right here. But you can text him for more details. And the number is linked below. And so yeah, let's have a look at the bike.
Yeah, man.
Actually, Hadi got another fleet of bikes at the third floor, is it? Fourth floor. So they have a lot of bikes actually lah. Okay lah guys, so these are some of Auto Exchange bikes. Some of them I think just came back lah, and some of them are actually other people's bikes lah. So I think they only have like 4 here. A lot of bikes been going out lah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so business has been good lah. We got 2 promo code for you guys lah. One is the I love Fahan tray for minimum 3 days rental. And monthly rental is I love Fahan monthly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put it down here lah. Then you must mention this to Hadi at the office lah. And for more details, just text Hadi. The number is below right here.
Yep.
Once again, thank you for letting me try out the bikes lah.
No worries.
What is up guys, Fahan here. This is my ultimate review of the CB150R ExMotion courtesy of Auto Exchange. Alright guys, so we're currently in Marsiling Industrial Park. Gonna do the riding review of the Honda CB150R ExMotion. So the bike uses a key, it doesn't use a transponder as with most modern era bikes. Starting up straightforward, putting the key in, and let's ride right here. And starting up, and yeah, let's go. Alright, so the CB150R ExMotion. Interesting to note, this bike made in Thailand, first released in 2017, only marketed mainly for Asian markets. It's not really a worldwide bike. Interesting to note, Bunsiu actually doesn't bring in this bike. It's a parallel import brought in by the individual workshops. But unlike those China bikes that you see, spare parts for this is quite common now, because this bike is available in Thailand, in the Philippines, and even Indonesia. Surprisingly, Malaysia doesn't have it. So the ExMotion actually has a sibling, which is the Streetster. It still uses the same designation, the CB150R, but unfortunately it's mechanically and similar in design as the ExMotion. So there's only the addition of the stripes on the fuel tank and the 150 logo. They just use a different name for some reason. Once again, the bike also originates from Thailand, which is why you see the warning labels in Thai on the fuel tank right here. So both the ExMotion and the Streetster have been in Singaporean streets for quite some time, with the Streetster launched sometime a bit later. It's a very popular Class 2B bike. And this bike is basically the one that started the retro cafe racer trend in the Singapore riding scene for Class 2B bikes. And that's when the XXR 155 was also launched. And Honda also had the other variations of the bike, such as the CBF 190TR, which is a China-made exclusive. When I first started to ride it, my first impressions of the CB150R is that handling could have been better lah. That's all I have to comment lah. Handling could have been better because when you take in the corner, right, it doesn't really corner very well. You have to really lean your body and your butt in there, with the seat, and then to take in the corner basically. Compared with the MT-15 and the CB190TR that I rode earlier with Auto Exchange, both of them actually handles a little bit better than this. When I first use this bike, I find myself using the handlebars a lot, you know. This is so uncommon with a motorbike that I actually ride lah. I would prefer something more nimble, more agile. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite nimble. It's actually easy to handle, and it handles basically very beautifully lah. Once you get the hang of the, you know, leaning into the corners lah. Okay, so in Singapore, it's a very popular Class 2B bike. A lot of people use this bike. Okay, so this is my last day with the bike, by the way. So according to my trip meter, the total range for fuel tank for this bike is 284.4 kilometers before the fuel indicator starts to blink low fuel. So apparently Shell was having this V-Power promotion at the price of the 98. Alright, so let's get back to the review. Alright, so first impressions about this bike when I first saw it on the streets, you know. I'm not too keen on design because I'm not really a fan of the cafe racer retro inspired kind of bikes. But looking at it from a general and neutral point of view, I thought it really resembles era whereby this kind of design was commonly found lah. Honda describes it as a chisel kind of fuel tank design. It's small and compact. It actually helps with the weight savings of the CB150R, and the CB150R is quite compact lah, quite small, as you guys can see from the general outlook of it. When I rode with Zah in Thailand, I do see the CB150R around. It's quite commonly found alongside the Aerox and aftermarket parts. No need to worry lah, there's a lot of it in the market. Yeah, I mean, I've seen CB150R ExMotion owners, you know, modifying their bikes with all of the parts that is available in Lazada and Shopee. I think the individual workshops also. Interestingly, Bunseo Honda never really brought in this bike. They actually brought in the CB125R. So that is a lower cc version, and all of these bikes, the design actually follows very closely to the CB1000R and the CB300R. So this is the series of bikes with the retro inspired kind of outlook lah. And I think Zah and me reviewed a CB1100R. That is another retro inspired kind of bike with modern features. And speaking of modern features, right, digital gauge cluster, ABS, LED lighting, fuel injection. So what more can you ask? I mean, you want a retro inspired kind of bike, you don't want the headaches or hassle of an old bike, you know, which tends to give issues and problems, especially with wear and tear after a few years. You can get a retro inspired kind of bikes lah. And I think it's a very good deal. I mean, nowadays there's a resurgence of retro inspired kind of things. Motorbikes is one of them lah. Once again, handling, I thought it's not as good at first, but then after you get used to it, it's okay lah. And pretty light, pretty torquey, not as torquey as the MT-15. The MT-15 is very torquey, slightly slower pickup and acceleration than the MT-15. Better acceleration than the Sundero CBF190TR. Does pretty well on the highway, but because this is a naked bike, there's nothing, no windshield in front of you, so it's not really cutting through the wind very well. And the riding posture, kind of aggressive. You lean forward quite a bit, and I can feel my weight really pressing down on the handlebars when I first rode it. When I brought it home, you know, after doing my daily errands and what, I can feel my hands like literally numb, you know, because all of my weight has been transferred over to the handlebars, you see. I think that has to do with the posture lah, because you lean forward quite a bit. And for me, 165. The seat, I'm not sure what's the height of the seat, but I'm gonna put it down here. As you guys know, a bit too high for me. I'm actually tiptoeing quite a bit lah, so surprisingly, despite its size, it's actually a bit too tall for me. So I've seen lady riders riding this bike. I think they're shorter than 165, right? They are tiptoeing on it lah. Yeah, and speaking of lady riders, surprisingly, the CB150R ExMotion is very popular with lady riders. I see lady riders riding this bike more than male riders. So yeah, I think it's a nice, cute, little fun bike, you know, that catches their eye on the road. I think that's why lady riders are keen to get the CB150R ExMotion. Alright, So this is my first time at North Coast Road. Just want to check out this place. Okay, nothing much, just a dead end road with a roundabout. And the engine sound, oh, love it, man. It's a nice deep, you know, sounding growl, reminiscent of the older generation bikes. I mean, this is a cafe racer inspired kind of bike, so yeah lah, that's why the sound is like this. Interestingly, the platform is also shared with Indonesian made bike, and it's also known as the CB150R, but I think it's I forget the suffix, the English name, and that is specifically made for the Indonesian market, and it's not available in Singapore. Acceleration, pickup, pretty decent. Yeah, top speed, pretty decent. I think we can go like above 100 on this. Maintain speed very well. We're gonna test it out on the highway later on lah. 6-speed manual, so for you guys who like the sportiness, I think this is the bike to go. Doesn't have super clutch, doesn't have the VVA as with the MT-15, so the MT-15 actually performs slightly better than this. But given that it is a class 2B, pretty standard and expected lah. I mean, you don't buy a class 2B bike to go fast. I mean, it's just a form of transport, especially in Singapore. Alright, so giving a bit of a gas. Pretty decent pickup for a class 2B, but MT-15 is better lah. Brakes, very responsive, very decent. Once again, he has ABS, so the brakes won't lock up in an event of an emergency brake. I have a few complaints about this bike though. This bike, the vibration you can really feel on the seat lah. So when I first brought the bike home, rode it for a while, you know, on the streets, testing it out. When I got off the seat, my buttock like got semut-semut no? Because the vibration is really bad lah on this bike. It's like you can really feel a handphone vibrating on your butt right now, you know. Something to consider when you're getting the CB150R. I think this is the best route to do the bike review lah, because not too much traffic light, not too much traffic, and then it's just a nice straight route for you to, you know, just stop and give you guys my opinions, as opposed to be worrying about other people, you know, trying to run over you or something. So comparing this with the CB190TR, which is by Suniro Honda, and also parallel import into Singapore, so I think this is a much better option because it's more mainstream. It's widely available. I mean, it's available in Thailand, available in Indonesia, so aftermarket parts will not be an issue. Support, I don't think it will be an issue, because I think the individual workshops, they would have brought in any spare parts or whatsoever. But surprisingly, really surprising, Bunzio Honda doesn't really bring in this bike. I forget to mention that the handlebar, right? This handlebar right here is wider than most of the class 2B bikes that I've ridden. I feel that it's wider because I feel my arms like really stretching out on this while riding this bike. And it's very uncommon for a class 2B to have a wide handlebar lah. Almost feels like a class 2 kind of setup over here with the wide handlebar right here. So in city traffic, the ExMotion performs really well. Start-stop situation, no issue. The engine doesn't get really hot. Changing gears is a dream on this bike. You know, you feel as if you are totally in control of the bike. You know, after getting used to the bike, you know, turning, negotiating a bend, it handles beautifully. So this is a good bike for our class 2B beginner riders. And for me, looking at the design perspective, I would rather get the Streetster, because the Streetster has that sportier outlook with the stripe and the 150 logo on the rear of the frame. Low to mid-range torque, very effective on this bike. More than enough for you to probably get away from a sticky situation or with somebody trying to tailgate you, but definitely not as good as a class 2 lah. So pretty decent for a class 2B. Okay, pretty good launch for a class 2B. quite decent, almost comparable to the MT-15. Alright, we're approaching Seletar Expressway, so we are going to see how the CB150R ExMotion handles an expressway setting. And yeah, before I forget, me and Zah actually have reviewed the ExMotion from an owner's perspective. You can check out the video on the description below, or at the end of this video there's a link, just check it out. So from an owner's perspective, I think he'll be able to tell you more from there lah. Alright, let's see her top speed. And one thing that I don't like, the gauge cluster, there's some light when you go above 7000 RPM. I don't know why is it there for some reason. The MT-15 also has it. Maybe if any of you guys can enlighten me on what this is all about, do let me know in the comment section below. Pretty decent on the highway, but once again, it doesn't have a windshield, so it doesn't really cut through the wind very well. You can feel the wind on your body, on your face, on your helmet. And given its size, you know, it's small enough to squeeze in between cars, lane split and all that. But be warned because the handlebar is slightly wider than most of class 2E bikes. Do take note of the handlebar when you're squeezing with the traffic lah. So make sure you don't hit anybody's side mirror or what. Alright guys, so I'm going to give you guys my conclusion on the CB150R ExMotion / Streetster in a bit. 1 week with the CB150R ExMotion / Streetster. Just want to give you guys my final conclusion on it before, you know, I return this back to Auto Exchange. So this bike is actually part of the CB retro inspired kind of bike series, the CB1000R and the CB300R. That's why it shares similar cues and design. Built in Thailand, and yeah, has a very minimalist outlook. One of the things that I like about it is that it's lightweight, small, compact, you know, nice deep sounding engine, reminiscent of those you know, retro cafe racers kind of bikes, you know, that nice deep growl that the CB150R actually has. Good build quality, I mean, it's really expected of a Japanese manufacturer such as Honda, you know, very reputable despite being built in Thailand. Lots of accessories, so this bike is available in Thailand, available in Indonesia. Accessories, aftermarket parts definitely will trickle down into the Singaporean market, and no shortage of accessories for the CB150R. And yeah, fuel saving, so using this for a week and 280 plus kilometers. I mean, give or take lah. I mean, when I got this bike, I forget to actually reset the trip meter, so I think maybe you can plus another 10 or 15 kilometers, so maybe around 295 for my usage within the week. I mean, mixture of both highway and city riding. It has a fuel tank of 8.5 liters, and on paper it's projected to get 50 to 55 kilometers per liter lah. So I think it's quite fuel saving lah. I mean, it's a class 2B fuel injection. What do you expect? With that comes the downside about the CB150R ExMotion / Streetster. Small pillion seat, so my wife actually sat on this and she complained that the pillion seat is quite small, almost comparable to the Z1000 that she rode. I think if you were to put a box, I think it'd be more secure for her lah. Same, I think probably same goes for you guys. Put a box, I mean, something where your pillion can actually rest on, you know, so that it won't feel so vulnerable. The handling could have been better. When I first got this bike, the handling wasn't too good actually. You actually need to use your buttock, and as opposed to the MT-15 and the CB190TR that I rode earlier, this bike you really need to, you know, move your butt to really negotiate a bend or a corner, you know. You need to get used to the handling lah at first. Then after that, once you get used to the handling, it handles like a dream lah actually, like a normal class 2B bike lah. And no dealer support, so Bunsiu Honda doesn't bring in this bike. They actually brought in the CB125R for some reason. And with no dealer support in Singapore, you don't get that dealership warranty and assurance lah. And all of this actually lies with the individual bike shops that bought in this bike lah. So, but I think being a Thai bike, it shouldn't be an issue, because parts you can get it easily from Thailand and shipped it over to Singapore. Surprisingly, Malaysia doesn't have this bike. I tried to research online. Malaysia doesn't really have this bike. In India, they actually brought it recently, along with the Streetster. So I think aftermarket parts is not an issue lah for this bike, because this bike is also available in Indonesia. And in Indonesia, they have a strong bike culture, so definitely aftermarket parts wouldn't be an issue lah. You may want to consider that lah if you want like a authorized dealer assurance. And it's slightly too tall for short people lah. Being a small bike, I'm actually surprised that I'm tiptoeing on this, because I'm 165 and the seat height is actually 79.5. I've seen lady riders riding this bike, they are slightly shorter than me, they are actually tiptoeing. Maybe you can lower the suspension, or maybe even lower the seat, you know, to comfortably sit on it, you know, with your foot flat on the ground. It has a slightly forward riding posture, so you are leaning a bit to the front, and I can really feel my weight, you know, on the handlebars, pressing on the handlebars right here. So I do feel numb a bit here. I think you can actually raise the handlebar if you want to compensate for that. And not only that lah, the handlebar is also wider, so I do feel my hands like, you know, the sitting posture isn't too comfortable for me lah. That's what I'm trying to say lah, basically. And yeah, engine too much vibration lah. Even now, I can still feel my butt. Like, you know, the Malay call semut-semut, no? Those what is it called in English? I forget lah. I think I got used to it until after 1 week of riding this bike. I don't know lah, maybe something you need to get used to it lah. But for me, that is my main complaints about the CB150R. So final conclusion, good for beginner riders. Handles beautifully once you get the hang of it. A very easy bike, not too fast, not too slow. Performance is pretty average, pretty standard for a Class 2B, you know. And so riders who want that new cafe racer look, I mean, with the resurgence of retro bikes, awesome that our Class 2B riders has this option. You know, the CB150R, the CBF190TR, and also the XSR155. So no shortage of new cafe racer inspired bikes out there. And it's a mainstream bike, so parts, aftermarket accessories wouldn't be an issue for the CB150R ExMotion. This bike is kind of common nowadays. I think people wouldn't really care whether you're riding this bike or not lah. I mean, if I were to look at this bike on the street, probably say, okay lah, another ExMotion lah. Because it's been released for quite some time already, 3 years I think, because 2017 was its launch, and then it came to Singapore. So this bike isn't a head turner lah, so I think it doesn't attract too much attention. And this is the ExMotion, and for me, I would rather get the Honda Streetster. It's basically the same bike. It's really the same bike, only it has this stripe on this area and the 150 logo here. It has more color options. But if you want something plain, maybe the ExMotion is the choice lah. That's it for my review of the CB150R ExMotion. Very close to saying CB190R. And once again, this bike is available for rent at Auto Exchange. You can rent it from them. And right now they have a monthly promo code going on top of the current promotion already they have, which is I Love Fahantre. And if you want to rent it long term, there's a monthly promo code for you guys, I Love Fahantre monthly. So just tell this to Hadi at the office when you want to get your bike lah. Thank you Auto Exchange and Hadi once again for letting me borrow the bike to do this ultimate review for you guys. And do look out for more reviews with Auto Exchange bikes lah. And yeah, that's it for the vlog, and we will see you next one.